well, that's kind of how Harmony tries to be as a filmmaker. You know, he always talks about how the things he remembers most from movies is not the storyline, but it's the characters or it's certain scenes. And really, his movies are more about the characters. And this movie has a lot of memorable characters. You know, Matthew McConaughey, one of my favorite. It's the most Matthew McConaughey-esque performance.
It is. It's like Matthew McConaughey's kind of like stereotype on steroids.
It's his stereotype, but it's almost as if like every time he's played the Matthew McConaughey stereotype, it's like he's preparing for a Moondog. It really seems like every performance since then has been leading up to this.
Yeah, he seems like he could very easily be Moondog.
Like, in real life, 100%. Yeah. And what you were saying before about how when it started out, it was like, oh, this is another weird movie. You do see in the beginning of how the story, at least, is set up. It's very much it's very much of a, you know, man gets his act together storyline, and then it does not become that.
Well, yeah, and you're kind of waiting for any sort of plot to even kick in.
Well, the thing is, it starts off with your very basic, you see this guy, you get a real good glimpse at who he is when he's hanging out in the Florida Keys and he's partying and he's doing all these drugs, and you set up a real conflict where he goes up to Miami for his daughter's wedding, and you see how his family reacts to him, and you see how people around him act to him, and you see his daughter just rolling his eyes, just waiting for this guy to get his life together. You see that his kind of fatherly and husband duties are being taken over by Snoop Dogg's character, and you get a real plot for a movie that never turns into.
No, it goes the other way.
It goes completely the other way, because not only he doesn't change.
No.
And he doubles down at the end of the movie, which I liked a lot. You see clips and scenes from the first part of the movie. They have the callback to the poem of the opening scene. Well, so the opening scene, he's he's on this boat in the ocean with these girls, and there's clips of that scene that are intercut into the last scene when, you know, he's happy and he's got his inheritance from his wife. And it kind of just shows that this character is exactly the same person that he is at the beginning. It's everybody else who changes.
I feel like, without naming names, like I certainly know people who have been maybe not this exaggerated, but not too far off in terms of being like the lovable fuck up.
Yes,
you know,
100%. And everybody knows a person like that.
Yeah,
and
like you just for whatever reason they get away with murder.
Yes,
but when you sit back and look, you're like, they're kind of a fucked up person.
Yeah,
you know, but they have that charm or whatever.
Well, there is like kind of there are a lot of movies in general that are very much, they take that character and they say, okay, he needs to get his life together. And we even see that after the wedding, you know, his wife is killed in a car accident.
Right.
You know, very early on in the movie, and he's locked out of all his bank accounts. He's locked out of his mansion. He has no money, and he has to finish his book of poems in order to get his inheritance. And you say, you know, in any other movie, you recognize just like, all right, this is the starting point. He's gonna, you know, this is what motivates him to get his life together. And then he breaks into the mansion with a bunch of homeless people in one of like insanely wacky scene. You know, he's sentenced to rehab. His daughter is all mad at him. And, you know, you keep waiting for him, because we've seen this in movies time and time and again. And we're waiting for this character to change.
You're expecting the scene where it's like showing him like getting a haircut and like scribbling away in his notepad, like working really hard. And
if it was any other director who wasn't Harmony Korine, that's how that movie would have gone. That's exactly the mainstream of how this movie would have gone. And Harmony Korine as a director says the message is very different. Well, where we all know the lovable fuck up in our life, and our hope is that person can change. And
Right.
the message of these other movies are, you know, these people in your life have, you know, if you just push them a little bit, they will change. And this movie has a very different message of like, no, you have to accept this person for who they is. And there's actually kind of like a beauty of having these people in our lives, of, you know, these people who are all about fun. They're all about partying, and they're not the ones that have to change. You should, in fact, be more like them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, right? Because it's like, you can't just say that, oh, you know, no one's ever going to change. Like, there has to be consequences for certain things. There has to be accountability for certain things. You should hopefully learn a lesson or two as you get older. But at the same time, you know, how many times have you seen like relationships fail or situations not work out because you're expecting the other person to change?
Right.
You know, whether it's a friendship, a business partnership, or whatever, you know, like you have to sort of find that middle ground where it's like, this is who the person is, and you kind of like, all right, what are your strengths? Like, try to highlight the strengths, and you know.
Well, it's also just that just goes to show you how different Harmony Korine is than most other filmmakers, because like, yes, in reality, like, you want these people to change. In reality, like, you know, if you're a fuck up and, you know, you're constantly making things hard for people around you, you should change. And that's why, like, I feel like a lot of people are off put by the ending of this movie, because that's not like a message that they want to see or agree with, you know?
Yeah, I mean, not to get super political right off the bat, but there's also the layer of just like, you know,
there's a layer of capitalism.
Well, there's a layer of privilege where
Yes.
it's like, okay, this, you know, and again, I'm not just getting political for the sake of it, if that's even a thing, but, you know, like the idea that this person in a different situation would be, you know, chewed up and spit out by, you know, the criminal justice system,
right.
if he was of a different,
if Moondog was played by Denzel Washington instead of Matthew McConaughey, 100%.
I mean, you know, there's racial implications,
Yes,
there's
100%.
financial implications. Like, you know, I guess, like, you know, it's like, all right, take the fucking analytical lens off and just enjoy the ride. But, you know, there's even the part where he's like, he puts his hand on a police officer,
right?
Like that, you know. There's certain shit where you kind of have to go like, you kind of have to recognize
there's a level of privilege with Moondog. He's married to a woman who's very wealthy. They mention it. They mention it that like it's her family's money, you know. So there is privilege involved in Moondog.
Right. It's just like, hey man, like, just relax, man. Like, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, for you.
Right.
You know, where it's like a lot of society doesn't have the ability to sort of just fuck off. Right.
Which is, it's interesting for Korine, because Harmony Korine actually grew up poor in Nashville.
Well, yeah, and again, you can't fucking, you know, at the end of the day, it's a movie.
Yes,
you know, so it's like, you got to realize, like, okay, real life rules don't necessarily apply. Like, let's look to the bigger picture they're trying to get at, which is, I don't know, from my perspective, almost, I hate to continue using this word, but there was also there's something a little sophomoric about it, and I this is like this maybe the third episode that I've kind of gotten a little bit of that sense, or at least from the last two, but. Just the whole idea again of like, hey man, kick back and relax, man, burn the money. It's like, right. You know, but hey, look, if you're getting fucked up and you put this movie on and you're chilling, like, it's a fun movie. I'm not trying to be a fucking downer here. You know?
No, and I feel like the majority of people who watch this movie are just watching it because they want to laugh. They want to watch Matthew McConaughey get stoned and make a bunch of jokes.
Yeah.